All right, guys, we are live. Hello, everyone. I appreciate you joining us on the fourth episode of Checked Out. As you may know, we are all here from Relay Commerce. The format here is a little bit of a fun one. We typically have a surprise guest who is in hiding. However, Ryan, you're already here. So surprise, everyone
Surprise!
today.
Surprise! I'm here.
We have Ryan Babenzien from the incredible brand Jolie. So thank you so much for joining us today. In terms of what we're doing here, again, the format is a bit a little bit more direct, down to earth. We are just trying to have real conversations with real founders and people who are in the Shopify ecosystem. We are going to dive into what it was like to build Jolie and how things are going at Jolie to date. But we also want to learn a little bit more about Ryan. So without further ado, I would love to kick this off with some rapid fire questions from Harry.
Oh, we're going rapid fire first. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going straight into it.
Maybe an introduction or something like, from Ryan, or, like, can we get any?
Yeah, Ryan, first give us a quick introduction about you first, Ryan, and just Jolie from a very top level.
Yeah,
That can be the first question.
I'm Ryan Babenzien, founder and CEO of Jolie, which is a beauty wellness company that purifies your water for better skin, hair, and health. We are just over 4 years old, so being guest number 4 is kind of fun. And that way I can set the bar really, really low, so everybody after me can just do better.
I like it. All right, let's go. All right, so on this rapid fire question round, Ryan, doesn't have to be one word answers, but just fairly short. So we're going to start straight off the bat with what's been the biggest surprise working with Jolie in a couple of sentences, if you had to sum it up.
Well, we're still a one product company. I thought we'd have product 2, 3, and 4 in the market after this duration of time. But I think, it's a testament to the value prop that we actually provide and how people are using it every day. So that is surprising. I thought we'd have other products. Other products are coming, but we didn't have to put them out as soon as I thought we would.
Gotcha. 5 a.m. run club or 2 a.m. in the club?
Run club.
Although
I just got back from Milan. I was at Salone. I don't know if you guys know, sort of a design show. I was out till 3 a.m. on Wednesday, and that was surprising, actually.
Yes.
But normally 5 a.m. run club.
Okay, gotcha. What is one initialism that's used in e-commerce, like ROAS or ROI, that you wish you could just never hear again because you just hear about it too much?
All of them, just all of them. Get rid of the acronyms, man. Yeah, ROAS is a particularly annoying one because I don't think it means much, but so many of them are becoming less relevant. I think there was a time when they mattered, but less and less so now.
Yeah. Why do you think they're becoming less and less relevant now?
I think D2C has evolved. It's not a singular channel anymore in that there's just not many brands that scale well or profitably on D2C alone. I think if you're building a brand, you need to build a brand that's distributed through other channels. E-commerce is of course a really big one and a great one. It's just not the only one, where there was a time when we thought it would be the only one, and it's not.
Yeah, and now think of that e-commerce world. Now, obviously, you use Smarter for your subscriptions, which is great, so we don't need to talk about that one. But what's the best app you've ever installed?
Man, I want to say Smarter, but okay, I won't say
All right,
it.
I'll give you a second.
The best app we've ever installed. Ooh, we're using Nectar. I don't know. Do you guys know Nectar? Social listening tool, AI inspired or AI powered. Really, really like it. I think the two sisters are doing something really special. We're getting a tremendous value out of it through all the channels that we show up in to sort of measure and engage with our community, not just measure, but really engage with them in a smart, efficient way. So I'm going to say Nectar.
Nice. I've not heard of Nectar myself, but I will check it out. All right, we're going to flip that the other way. Now, you don't have to name a specific company if you don't want to. You can just name the category that it's in. But what's the most disappointing app that you ever installed?
Feel free to be spicy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna just say any attribution tool. All of them have over promised and under delivered.
Okay. And speaking of under delivering, what is the most frustrating thing with dealing with salespeople? Because I'm sure a lot of people are reaching out to you the whole time. We probably have some salespeople listening to this call as well.
Well, I respect that everybody has a job to do and they're trying to get people's attention. But after, 17 emails of not getting a response, you should just sort of migrate that person off the list. No,
Yeah.
it's sort of like, sorry to bother you. Like I do laugh at some of the intros of trying to get you to respond. But I think they go on a little bit too long than they need to.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's the best thing that a salesperson can do?
Convince me their product works and then prove it.
Solid. In one sentence, best thing about being a founder?
Ooh, the best thing? Well, I'm not sure yet. Well, I guess you get all the glory if it works and all the failure if it doesn't. I'll take that
Okay.
risk.
Yeah. You've answered my second question, which was going to be what's the worst thing about being a founder? I
I'm
suppose
not sure
that's
they go hand in hand. By the way, the
yeah.
glory is overvalued because obviously founders just get the credit, but they shouldn't because it's really the team behind the founder. The founder just gets to be out there on the front. But the failure is pretty, it's lonely. The worst thing is it's lonely, not the failure. It can be very lonely because you can be very isolated a lot.
That's interesting. And what do you do to try and make it less lonely in those moments? Or do you just have to take that on the chin and expect that that's just
Yeah,
part of the
I
gig?
mean, there's just times you can't, you might have, even if you have a great team, there's certain things you can't discuss with the team. There's certain things that you want to discuss with them, but don't. Investors, same thing. Like, everybody sort of has their own agenda. You would like to believe that you are 100% at the, all aligned at the exact same time, all the time. I'm not sure that's true. That doesn't mean these are bad people. It just means like somebody grows out of their role. They want to get married. They have children. Like lots of things can happen that change the dynamic of a business. And the founder is sort of stuck figuring out how to continue to evolve through those moments. So, you're
Okay.
asking me what I do. I mean, I just sort of manage through it. There's no secret. You got to keep level headed, stay fit, stay focused, mental clarity. There's lots of ways to keep those together, but beyond that, you sort of just do the work.
What is the most insightful thing that a customer's ever told you along the way for Jolie?
It wasn't really one, actually. We had a series of customers were telling us about very specific issues around eczema. And we sort of knew that, taking out chlorine is an inflammatory chemical. And we sort of had an understanding that this should help, but we didn't do any testing at that point. And then after hundreds of those sort of customers, specifically around that one issue, that was pretty insightful to understand that we're actually helping it.
Interesting. All right, two final things, which are a bit more fun. What's the last thing that you bought that you absolutely didn't need, but you just bought for fun?
The last thing that I bought that I didn't need. God, I don't even shop much anymore, but I definitely bought a bunch of stuff recently. I'm just trying to remember what it was. I think the sneakers I'm wearing right now, I don't need them. I didn't need them. I've got, 50 pairs of shoes, but I
Can you
bought
show
them.
us? Can you get your legs up?
Can you see that?
Oh,
It's
look
just a
at
very
these.
simple deck shoe from Sperry, which you would know more for their boat shoe. But they did this really cool, what we call hairy suede in the footwear industry. It's like more
Hairy
of a fuzzy
suede.
suede, and
That's
it's
what we
like
call Harry.
it's a really good, like super light gray. I just had never seen it before, so I bought it.
I love it. And
I
then,
certainly didn't need them.
That's your Ibiza shoe, right?
yeah.
It was my Ibiza shoe and my Florida shoe. So like there was a purpose, but I still didn't need it. I have others
Yeah.
that could have filled in just fine.
All right. And then throughout the years, I'm sure you bought a bunch of just things, as we all do. What's the best bang for your buck item that you've ever bought? So not necessarily something that was just amazing quality or very expensive, but something that you just look at and you're like, that is the most insane value of something that I own.
You know, there's certain things that I wear and have had them for a really long
Mm.
time. And I'm looking at one right now, like it's sitting next to me on this chair. It's like what somebody would call a shacket, a shirt jacket.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah,
and this one is probably 10 years old.
I love that.
And I wear it all the time, like literally all the time. It's a great travel piece because it's got pockets and I need shit for my son's, Lego cars and stuff
Lego,
to
there
go on
we
the
go.
plane. So it's like perfect, thing to just sort of throw over. It's super lightweight. And there you go. It's a
Love
brand
it.
from Italy called the Spesi, Aspesi.
Especially nice. There's another very good one in Portugal called Isto as well, which
Yeah.
have yeah, they're just amazing quality. They'll last for like a whole lifetime. Yeah, I love those things.
Yeah. So
Um,
shacket, my shacket. I actually have it in 3
Nice.
colors. So there you go.
Yeah, perfect. Right, that's all from me. Eric, I think you're up.
That was beautiful, man. Great job. All right, Ryan. I think we were talking about golf earlier, so I figured I'd just go right. This is insane.
You're kidding.
I love the graphic.
These
That
are,
is so good.
these are getting out of hand.
Just getting banged on a monthly basis. Yeah. This is literally unreal right now. Okay.
It's
Well,
so good.
anyway, can't take me seriously anymore. Not that you started. All right. So
Never did, dude.
I love these hypotheticals. So this hypothetical would be you get $100 million. So you just got $100 million bucks. However, you have to get a birdie on every single hole on a course for a single day. So you have like basically, I don't know, 12 hours of sunlight in the day. You have to birdie each hole. You can start at any hole you want. You can play it as many times as you want. But if you don't birdie every hole, you can't play golf ever again. So you get $100 million bucks,
Or I can't, or I don't play golf every day.
or you don't play golf
Ever
ever
again.
and you got to birdie every hole in a day.
Yeah. So what is your question is which do I take?
Yeah, are you going to risk it for the $100 million?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. That's an easy answer. Yeah, dude. I'm not like I could give up golf. Like I'm not like that committed
okay.
to it. Yeah. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah,
Easy.
that wasn't.
That was actually a really easy one. That was not hard.
Hold on.
I have another one.
If you said like 500,000, I might be like, okay, like that one's a little. 100 million, dude. Come on,
Yeah, true.
like it's a lot of dough.
Okay. All right. I'll try again. Give me another try. All right. So this one's a little bit of hindsight. I've actually been curious what your thoughts were on this since I actually talked to you the first time because it was so early stage back then. But would you rather start a software company or a brand?
A brand. I don't. Software would not be. It's just not my. It's not my category expertise. So I'd probably struggle there. I think I have lots of ideas around software companies and how they can improve the way they approach the market and position and even brand. And I actually did that for one, like as an advisor, a very, very big one that's not IPO'd yet, but will. But in terms of like, I can't tell you that. I mean, I could, but I won't.
Later.
But in terms of but starting brands is something that
Okay, I got one more.
I like doing. I have fun doing it.
That's awesome. I love how certain you are on these things. Now we're gonna really get crazy. This is a classic one we always do when we all meet up. But so the hypothetical is, let's just say it's $1 billion. You get $1 billion, right? However, a killer squirrel spawns in the world and tries to come after you the rest of your life. So get $1 billion. It can respawn it can learn things and learn how to drive cars and rocket, but like if it touches you, you're done. But you get $1 billion. Are you taking the money and just committing to a lifestyle of having a squirrel chase you forever, or what's your
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not taking the money. You can keep it.
Hey, Ryan,
I don't.
you remember
I
when you
don't
were
want
like,
to. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just gonna say, hey, do you remember when you were like mildly nervous before we went live? Is that
Yeah. No, like I don't want a killer squirrel chasing me for the rest of my life. Like that just doesn't sound like a fun life.
you get $1
So
billion
like,
though?
it's not worth it. I mean, I guess you
Yeah,
could
he's got
be
a
in the
nice outside space in his lovely
yeah, like
flat.
I don't want
We
to. I
can't have a
mean, I'd have
squirrel
to.
out there.
If you have to live inside a chamber of and in fear all the time, like that just doesn't sound like a nice life.
It's thrilling though. You only live once.
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
squirrel,
I mean,
that's
YOLO. I mean, you
forever.
go for it, but you can have it. I'll give you the money. You can let him chase you.
I asked Shannon that hypothetical the day I met Shannon in person.
day one,
Day one.
actually, like probably hour one?
I mean, I love that it's a killer squirrel, by the way, because that is just like.
It also like continued to come up to at dinner, like we would pretend the squirrel's coming. It was quite ridiculous.
Like, the rest of the hangout was like where the squirrel is going to come in from.
It's like the gopher in Caddyshack, but a squirrel.
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
it's like
Yeah.
you can't kill it.
Like you get on a plane, like somehow it's on the wing. Like you look out the window, it's like holding on to the wing, like ready to get. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, all right, that's enough on my end.
Well, I was gonna say we could, we're thinking about doing some shower thoughts segment on this podcast in honor of Jolie, but I think that will go completely rogue at this point.
Yeah, if you guys like showed up and you were on the
You have to reel
shower,
this
that might be different.
All right, let's get into the good stuff though. Let's talk about Jolie for a second. So Ryan, I've always said, like, going back to the question, would you ever build a SaaS company or a brand? Right? It's very clear you are a brand marketer through and through. I've always been impressed by how intentional you've been from the start. The thing about Jolie, right? Like you took a shower head, something that was traditionally in Sears and Home Depot, a hardware store, right? And repositioned it entirely for the beauty category, right? It looks completely different from all other beauty products that I see at Ulta, things like that. Did you know out of the gate that you wanted to, create a category rather than take a strategic positioning in one that was already established?
Yeah, I was trying to. I mean, the journey to Jolie is not short. Like this was something I was thinking about conceptually, like beyond the shower head or Jolie as a brand. I was thinking like, how do you fit into something that people do every day? Like this was a long time of thinking about a lot of things, and then it led to Jolie. But yeah, I was always trying to find what some might call a niche market. It's a growing market. I believe that everybody's going to have a filtering shower in their life in due time. I like there'll be multiple brands, but everybody will have one because it's a necessity. And I was looking to be the sort of front runner in that new category. We landed at Jolie. So I think, 4.5 years in, you could look at the market and say it's an early days of the filtering shower business, but there have been, we're at almost 1 million customers, and there's a few other brands that I'm sure have a nice size of customer count. So it went from 0 4.5 years ago to where we are today. And if you think about like pimple patches were nothing 10 years ago, and now they're sort of a common product, or gummies as a nutrition delivery system, 0 10 years ago, and now you have many brands, and it's a billions of dollars in market value. I think filtering showers will be bigger than both of those combined, simply because of the scale of showering, right? There's 260 million residential showers in the US alone, and the behavior of it, which is something you do every day from the time you're very, very young till you die. So yeah, I was looking to do something like that.
On the note of consumer behavior, sorry, Eric, did you want to dive in real quick?
I just had a quick question for you, Ryan. I know you had a bit of a series of all the freaking duplicates. Obviously, when you create something great, a lot of people are trying to copy on Amazon or all these things. I'm just curious, like, how have you dealt with the duplicates over the years? Or maybe that's kind of fizzled out, or it was more in the beginning. Just genuinely curious how that's gone, because obviously I'm sure there's some people trying to make not what you have, but try to take advantage of what you're building and the vertical you're building with.
Yeah, I mean, again, like it's a really big space. There's going to be other brands, and frankly, I want other brands in the space. It sort of validates the category, and there's no single player in big markets. It just doesn't happen, right? So there's dupes, which are just straight knockoffs that look. They're trying to look like Jolie, and maybe even they're fake, right? They're counterfeit. That's one thing, and those are sort of going away because we get really aggressive legally. And most of them are just shitty drop ship knockoffs from Asia that they sell on Amazon, and that's fairly easy to sort of squash. And then there's other filtering shower brands that are just entering the space, and I sort of welcome them. I don't have any issue with somebody trying to compete in this market.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking of more of that first thing you referenced, which is just products that are like looking the exact same instead.
Yeah, I to be honest, I'm really shocked that some of these things even get on Amazon. I don't know how that happens, or I just remember when we opened our Amazon account, I just felt like there was some pretty meaningful questions that were being asked about the legitimacy of our business, and you have to go through this process. And
how do they
those
just put
seem-
them there after your whole?
Yeah, I just feel like I was like, wait a second, how could you do that? How could they get past that series of questions that you have to answer about your business and still be allowed to be on the site? That's a bit of an that was annoying, but we're fine. We're fine. We're doing just fine.
Yeah, for sure. I was just curious. I remember I saw a LinkedIn post, I think like a year ago, of you being like, how the heck are these people doing what they're doing?
Yeah, validating it nonetheless, and also I guess you could take it as a compliment, right?
That's what they tell me.
What they say, right? No, it's a good call out. But going back to the kind of the impetus behind Jolie, right? You started to talk about just consumer behavior as a whole, right? And I think the other interesting thing that came with Jolie, especially when you launched, was the subscription factor behind it, right? Was the recurring nature. And I think a lot of beauty brands are always thinking about routine, making sure their product gets into routine, right? Was this something that you planned from the start, stumbled upon? How did that all come to be?
You're asking how did the routine or the recurring piece of the business happen? Is that what your question is?
Yeah. Was it, like I said, was it kind of built into the original launch plan?
Yes. I mean, we just, again, like the idea for Jolie wasn't like I have to find a subscription business. That came after we realized this big problem of water and how you had to filter the water in your shower. And then we realized, oh yeah, and you're going to have to replace this filter all the time. And of course, that's going to be a subscription model. But it was product first, or problem product, and then business model of subscription. And at this point in the industry, I was just on an intro call, like right before this. Brands call me like every week asking me how to build better subscription companies. Mechanically, they ask me about the SaaS that we use, of course. There are those things, and you want to have the best tools and that you can get in the market. But I think for Jolie, the silver bullet for us is the behavior of showering and the value proposition that we offer. If you're going to shower every single day, you might as well be doing it with better water and have better skin and hair, regardless of what product you're using. Beyond that, right? We call it step zero. That is really unique. That's a very unique thing that all humans do, or most, or at least Americans. You're showering daily, so this is sort of, I can't replicate that in a CPG product the same way. I just don't think I can. So behavior was a really critical part of a business I wanted to create around a behavior that you do every single day habitually. And there's just not that many of those. So if you have one, you're likely to see more success in your subscription retention.
Were there other verticals, Ryan, that you looked across at when you were thinking about this kind of repeat purchasing model? Because so many subscription brands are selling consumable products. You're selling kind of hardware that has replaceable filters. Are there ones that you put up on a pedestal and thought this is the kind of model that we can do here, or was it a case of you kind of being a first mover?
Um, I was thinking about through the brand lens first, to be honest. So like brands that you just have a loyalty to, they're not consumable. I think, Apple is a brand that people reference all the time because we're on Apple iPhone 17 and I've had 15 of the 17, right? That's irrational. That's irrational behavior around a brand loyalty. Dyson is another one. Pure hardware, not something that's disposable, considered purchase, very expensive in the category. I've got Dysons in every two in this house, one in New York, like they're everywhere. That's where I think of like that's the brand part of like you can create insane loyalty through just building great brands. Then there's this sort of other thing that we have, which is great brand plus behavior or usage. And we think about the reason we pull, I don't know if you recently saw the chart we put out. Jolie has better retention than Gruum's AG1 and Coterie diapers, Nutrafol, and there's another brand that people usually consider like the best in the market in consumer products. And we have better retention than all of them. And even though those are some of the best brands in the world and in their category, and yet people still churn differently, even though they know it's good for them and they like the product, for some reason they move on to something new or stop taking it all together, even though they know it's good for them. Jolie hasn't seen that. And I think a lot of it has to do with one, how much we improve what you're doing daily. So you don't have to learn, you don't have to remember to take your shower. You have to remember to bring your gummy with you, or you have to remember to scoop this in the water before you leave the house. And those things tend to get challenging over longer periods of time. So I think we're really lucky and we have this behavior that's so we are hardwired into your daily behavior. Literally, we are hardwired into your house and into a thing you are doing every day of your life, your whole life. That is pretty special.
It reminds me a bit of the wearables space. I have this Whoop, and
Yeah.
it just
I
sits
but
there
but
on my
it,
wrist. I don't think about it.
but I
Yeah.
had Whoop for 3 years and now I have an
Mm,
Aura ring. Okay, so I've
yeah.
changed brand. It's easier to wear. You could argue they offer a similar experience. Um, and I'll be loyal to this probably till the next thing comes out
Mm,
that might be slightly less intrusive. But you're right in that the wearable is a unique experience.
mm.
It's a unique thing that most people sort of stick with for very long periods of time. Yeah.
I'm curious,
Agreed.
Ron. I love the idea of being where people are and having the product that makes that experience better. My question for you is, have you thought about applying Internet of Things to your products? So knowing exactly how long people shower for, right? Or, you know, like what times of the day, like do people shower local time? Most 80% of people shower between 7:15 and, 7:25 every morning local time. Like that stuff sounds interesting to me just for like SMS related stuff, right? Email timing, ads, ad campaigns. Just generally curious if you ever thought about going that far. I know that kind of screws up a lot of
Yeah.
process, but just kind of
No,
dream
we
for a second.
we we have thought about it. I thought about it a lot even before we launched. I have some ideas on how this becomes a more environmentally thoughtful tool for the user. Just imagine if I could tell you how much energy was used to heat the water, move the water, and clean the water every single day in your shower. And you just got a little thing through an app and it said you use this much wattage of power to take your 14-minute shower. If you took a 12-minute shower, it would reduce this by this, CO2 emissions by this. Yeah, I've thought about that pre-launch. I haven't done it, but we do have an R&D roadmap.
That would be epic, man. I'd love IoT on anything. Like, I don't know. Like, I was thinking like Simple Modern, for example. Like, all these big cup companies. Like, what if they put IoT on that? Like, they could find out.
But then there's the human side of me where I say, the fucking shower is one of the last places on earth that you have this salvation of like your personal space. There's very few places that have not been abducted by technology. And I'm not sure I want to touch it. Right. Like that. So that's the conflicted mind of like, yeah, I know I could do that. And there's a lot of value there. At the same time, do I really want to? Like, do I really want to invade somebody's like that last private space where you get to be alone and think and recover? It's like spiritual, it's physical. Like showering does a lot. It provides so much value to, start your day, end your day, recover. It really is a pretty, holy space in the spiritual word. I'm not sure I want technology in there, but
That's a great take. That's an awesome take. I don't
I'll
disagree
figure
with
it
that.
out.
Yeah, cool, man. That's interesting. You thought about that ahead of time. I had an idea a while back when I was at Wayflyer, where it's basically soap dispensers with IoT on it, and so they would be like automatic replacements. So there'd never be. You would subscribe to just always getting the
Yep.
refills, right? That's the idea, and then you would get stats on like if you have a bunch of kids or you have like a football team at a school, you can actually figure out usage and if there's waste. So like if you have kids and they're in the restroom downstairs, number one, a kid might not even tell you they ran out of soap for like 2 weeks. Like you don't even know they ran out, right? So it's like you'll actually know when they run out.
He hasn't had toilet paper or soap for 2 weeks.
Like, these kind of
You
things.
need different friends, Eric. I think you need to change your friend group.
Dude, I gotta have friends first, Ryan.
Need to
I
get
don't know
a
what you
friend
guys are doing out there in Colorado, man, but you might want to.
Dude, that was Georgia days, man. I feel like as a kid, I'm not thinking about what soap I got. I'm just getting in the shower, getting out.
No,
it's
dude,
what does somebody do?
totally. Yeah.
Auto-filled. I thought that was a genius idea, and then I looked at the cost of doing something like that on those capsules, and I was like, "There's no fucking way I'm doing this." The cogs are just way too high, and then what? I'm gonna have a 9-month lead time. Yeah, I'm good on that, but yeah, that's cool. You were already thinking about that ahead of time. Curious. I'm a fan of if you do it eventually. I'll be the first guy cheering about it.
Well, I appreciate that. I have a customer of one so far. Cool. So it's how you start.
Ever see the Seinfeld where Kramer
Oh
tried?
my gosh, no.
I never saw that, but I need to.
I feel like we have a whole campaign right now. Thanks,
Dude,
Patrick.
that sounds incredible. Maybe Jerry will be in an ad for me.
Yeah, that's great. I like the magic bolt, the magic spit one. That one was funny. That was a great episode.
All right. I mean, we can stay on that topic, right? You talked about adding to the existing product. We've talked about R&D. You talked about adding products to the actual catalog, right? What is kind of the next phase of Jolie?
Well, our focus is and always will be filtering water as it relates to your skin, hair, and health, which means there's 3 areas in the bathroom that we need to solve for: shower, bathtub, and sink. And you should expect those products to be coming to market. In addition to that, we have, so there'll be different form factors within the shower, which you should expect later this year. And then, bathtub and sink. We think there's other places where you're getting your hair washed that we're going to show up in, but I'm going to leave it there and we'll go into the detail. Beyond that, we're on track to do $100 million in revenue in the next 24 months. So we look at it in these milestones. We've sort of surpassed 50 million in 4 years, 100 in the next 2. we've done the first 50 with basically a direct to consumer mostly business. 90% of our business has been that, and a single product. That's pretty focused. And I think it's our focus that has allowed us to achieve that kind of success. Although there is always a risk to be that single product focus. Now we're sort of set up for the next phase, not only in revenue, but just distribution, where you can buy Jolie. That's all sort of expanding. And then you'll have this product offering as well. So that's as far as we've really, like, I have a 5-year plan, but I'm just going to focus on that 2-year plan because, again, there's a long way between 50 and 100, even though it's going to happen much faster than the first 50, right? Half the time. And then beyond that, we think about, what does the Jolie world look like in CPG outside of our core purpose for being? I'm not sure we need to leave our core purpose for being for a decade, maybe longer. The market is huge. The market is huge. If I'm right about what I believe, that everybody will have a filtering shower, then we won't leave that space for 10 years or more. If I'm wrong about it, then maybe we add other products just because it makes perfect sense that we do them. We have license to do them, and it is the most complimentary, to do shampoo, conditioner, body care, sun care, fragrance. It just makes a ton of sense. So as a brand creator, I wanted to do those products 4 years ago. As an operator, I have kept my focus hat on.
Mm-hmm.
Those liquids on D2C too, man. That outbound shipping cost is just not cool.
Yeah.
So not.
Eric's hung up on the logistical costs.
I mean, dude, I'm not wrong though. I mean, if you start
No, but that's not a reason not to do it. These are just, you figure out the right way, but you're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. But
the way
everybody needs soap.
the amount of brands that I failed in underwriting because they were beverage brands, and their cost of goods on their outbound shipping cost was like half of their contribution margin.
Yeah, liquids are really heavy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's, and especially for drinks. But that's where I think earlier I was saying you need distribution to really make these things make the most sense. I also just told you up until like right this second, we're 90% D2C. So we're we're an anomaly in that we've been able to stay very, very focused, get really profitable in a single channel. We have distribution, but it's the complexion of that distribution will change dramatically from the first 4 years to the next 4 years.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a couple things. One thing that I wanted to kind of circle back to, you mentioned, the speed in which you get to the next 100 is,
Next,
different.
well, it's really 50, but to get to 100 in total.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's different than the speed that, that was 0 to 50, right? Which
Yeah.
I think applies to all things in the business, right? So what got you through the first phase of Jolie to the next is different, right? Like in the early days of Jolie, when you were creating a category, you did a lot of really interesting things in terms of building a community. You had a lot of social engagement and interaction through UCG and TikTok and things like that, right? You've always been really vocal about not getting stuck into the vortex of meta, right? What is changing? What's evolving in from phase 1 to phase 2?
Well, we're not evolving in a lot of ways, actually. We're just doing more of the things we think are more important. And I think as an industry, we're also seeing people do more like in real life activations,
Love it.
community oriented things. We've done that for forever, and we'll continue to invest there. We'll go a little bit higher funnel, and just think of bigger brand campaigns that live on all channels: television, out of home, and paid digital, but it'll be more cohesive. And we're doing that. So, but the combination of that you know, I'm just going to speak about television because you'll sort of understand it. Really, really investing in television is a singular, like a D2C only brand. You're going to get some value, but you won't get the most value you could. Once you get distribution and you start showing up in stores and retail across the country, then it's really when you should invest in that, right? Because 50% of stuff is still being bought in a store, especially in beauty. So we're at that stage, right? So now you should expect to see Jolie on TV. And we've been on TV for 24 months. So half of the 4 years we've already been playing there and dabbling there. It's been very sort of low investment in the content that we actually put on television. And now we understand, like, yep, now we know exactly what to do, how to do it, where to do it. It'll be a lot bigger, and we'll make a bigger investment. Not so much in the media by itself, but the content that shows up there. So that's what we're doing. But we'll continue to do the events as well, like, you know, engaging with real people is our strategy. Word of mouth is the best marketing tool you could have. If you could have 100% word of mouth, you'd be really, really successful, and you'd be a brand that matters, right? Apple advertises, but you don't need to see an Apple ad to go buy an iPhone. You just don't. There's this built-in desire and demand. And creating demand is very different than creating an ad. They're two different things. Demand is really powerful and really emotional, and that's what you want. And that's what we focus on.
Well said. And I think it speaks to, we're getting a couple questions in the chat here. One of which was, can you ask what his marketing and advertising spend was in years 1 and 2, right? So if you want to dive in, I know you have.
Well, like, we didn't advertise on Meta for the first 9 months, which means we didn't advertise.
Exactly.
We relied on people, humans, aka creators, not influencers. I mean, some of them were influencers with a capital I, but that's not really where we spent our time, and nor do we still. We have plenty of them that are customers, and they have Jolies, but we really focus on just people that are going to talk about us in one way or the other. We're not trying to shape their opinion. We're super confident in the value we provide, so we just let them, you know, say what they want, really. But we've got, I mean, we're approaching 100,000 pieces of UGC. That's a pretty big sounding board for content that we did not have to pay for. So now, of course, we spend money. I mean, we have a really healthy marketing budget, somewhere in the 20% range of top line. So it's not like we don't spend money, but how we spend it is more important than what we spend. And
well said. I think
I've been the anti-meta guy for a long time and still am. So against most of my peers still spend 80% of their budget on Meta, and we spend 20% of our budget on Meta. So I don't know. I don't know who's right.
Unrelated question. I know we're getting to the end here, but just happened to notice your watch, Ryan. What watch you got there? Can you fill us in? It's so shiny. I'm literally just. Anyway, I just wanted to know.
This is a Rolex Daytona.
Nice, dude. Those are
very, very nice. It's no Casio, but it's
no, but a
it's not bad,
Casio.
right?
You know, you want to know the irony of it all? A Casio keeps better time.
It's crazy.
There's no digital watch in the world that does not keep a better time than an automatic watch. That's just a sad truth.
That's awesome. That's a cool watch, man. Love that.
Thank you.
I just thank you for the watch comment, Eric. I appreciate that. It was very shiny.
Just let me know. I'm here for it.
I think the other thing just to call out in terms of building a brand, the approach you've taken, the UGC you've seen, right? I think one really interesting thing is the concept of Jolie. You actually have to install the shower head, which in theory could have been a really big hurdle, right? Because it could be frustrating or something like that. But you actually turn that challenge, that hurdle, into a brand experience, right? I know when I personally got my first Jolie, it had like this adorable wrench, and to this day, I still have the screwdriver in my, you know, the drawer with all the markers and all the random stuff. my whole household refers to it as Shan screwdriver because it's like mini and very.
You mean wrench, not
approachable.
screwdriver. Wrench,
Yeah,
not screwdriver.
Yeah. It's very approachable, right? And like it's just kind of one of those things. So again, I think like you kind of thought of every touch point along the way. How, was that something, again, in the early stages, like was that part of the design of going to market?
100%, because that unboxing needed to be encouraging, right? Most people, like one of the big hurdles we had, if we didn't solve this hurdle, Jolie would not work. If most people believe you need a plumber to install a shower head, you do not. We needed to make sure we could communicate that down to the easiest level. Think of it, teenage girl could like have the confidence that they can install Jolie. We also needed to make sure that the tool they needed was included, because I didn't want you to have to go, I don't have the tool. What do I need? Where is it? Maybe my dad has a toolbox or a friend we had to like eliminate all that friction. So we made a wrench, color coded it, brand coded it. Plumber's tape, made really small plumber's tape. Most plumber's tape, like when we talk to the supplier, there's a standard size. There's like enough tape on there to do like 150 installations of shower heads. That's just wasteful, both environmentally and for the space in the package. So we custom made a very small spool. Yes, all of those things were intentional. And in doing that, we, encouraged and now have, we'll do somewhere in the 1 million customers by the end of the year. Most of them install it themselves and have made videos to prove it. That was, again, we won on the education and understanding that you don't need a plumber, but without that wrench, that wouldn't have been the case. We needed that wrench in there. And I'm glad that you keep it because we made it good enough to keep. That was another thing. We didn't want a little spanner wrench made out of pressed metal that was just sort of a disposable throwaway. And we were like, hey, let's just invest in a wrench that's going to be there so people can actually use it again for something else.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's a decent quality wrench that will last for a decade or more.
Like I said, it made its way into my junk drawer, right? But I see it every day.
Well, there you go. Another branding point.
Exactly. So I think, but it goes to say, like, when you're intentional about every touch point with your product, right, that's going to make the, going viral on TikTok a lot easier, getting UGC a lot easier, right? It's not like you just launched a product, you did a couple like pop-ups, people were like, oh, what's this? And got excited. There was a lot more that went into it. So like, I just want to kind of very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, we went so far as to like, even the packaging itself. One, I didn't want a product filled with peanuts in the air pockets and all that. All of that stuff is just horrible for the environment. So we were really like, we got to make this as low impact as possible. We don't use a corrugated, like we ship the box in the corrugated. So it wasn't like box inside of box. Like that just drives me crazy as a customer when I get an Amazon box this big for like, this thing. Like that just drives me insane. It's a waste. It's a waste across the board. So I was like, how do we get this thing? We use recycled paper pulp as the thing. So there's not one air pull, peanut, none of that shit. It packs in beautifully and it ships in the box itself. Like, and then you pull the strip to open it. We spent months and months on that because that's an experience. We wanted you to be like, understand this was super simple. At the same time, we wanted to make sure we were doing our part. We're not an environmental brand, right? I'm not making that claim, but we should all be doing the things that are responsible to the degree we can. And that's just our approach.
I appreciate that, right? And I think as you were talking about this might sound like a little bit of a pivot, but the transition's there, I promise. There's the through line. In terms of everything you said, right? I've always said Jolie's been one of the most intentional brands I've ever had, the privilege of working with. And as you keep talking, it's also you're equal parts intentional and efficient, right? So in terms of efficiency and how you've approached that, tell me about the team, because I know, I've talked to a lot of, D2C brands, and most of them are operating off of what I would call a lean team, and then there's Jolie. So tell me a bit more about how you've approached actually achieving this scale.
Yeah, and it's like an urban legend at this point.
Yeah.
We're a 5-person full-time team, but I want to make sure people understand that we're not just 5 people managing this current business. There's a bunch of independent contract people that work across the stacks, all of them. It's probably 20, but full-time employees, 5 people. And, we're able to leverage. I think if you interviewed every single person at Jolie, they would tell you they have an incredible balance of work and life. So it's not like we're working 100 hours a week and can't get out of our, we can never do this or that. That's just not the case. We're really efficient on how we communicate internally. We're really efficient about how we operate the business and set up systems that are enhanced by a lot of efficient tools like like yours and many others that do a lot of the heavy lifting that 10 years ago you needed 5x the people to do the things that software or AI will do today. So I think it's a great time to start an e-commerce based business because of all these tools. You just need less capital and less people. So I think that's really exciting. But yeah, we continue to be a 5-person full-time team. That also will change, and we will add people as we grow. But I don't think we're going to be D2C 1.0 bloated, overfunded. We've never raised institutional capital. The business has sort of grown and paid for itself off the balance sheet. I think more and more businesses will continue to do that. So if we can inspire one more person to do that at a brand, then we've done something.
Everyone needs it. Cut that OPEX, man.
I think also on that note, and from a slightly different perspective, right, Ryan, you've operated Jolie to the capacity that we just discussed, right? But you're also investing in a lot of other companies. We have a lot of merchants on the call today, tuning in and listening in. How is your experience in terms of, with Jolie, with Greats even, how does that influence how you invest in other companies and advise other companies? And also what are some of the key things that you're looking for in a company?
In a company, I like, does the thing that they're trying to build, whether it's a SaaS company, and I've actually invested in a few, or a product itself, like, does it provide value and why, right? I really want to know that the thing can sell itself, right? Like I'm using that as an example. It won't sell itself, but could it, right? Is it easy to understand? And does it solve a problem? And those are the things that I get excited about. And then how do you build that? Well, every brand needs capital. So it's not about don't raise institutional capital. It's like, how much money do you really need? Some brands need $50 million. If you're building a SaaS tool, you need more money. They're just more capital intensive. But don't raise 500 if you need 50, right? So I'm always trying to get these guys or girls to sort of appreciate, raise what you need, not what you're told you should take from like the investor group, because they are inspired differently than you. You're not on the same page. I don't care what venture capitalists tell you, like, you're not. You're just not. So raise what you need, hire what you need, but try to do it more efficiently than, again, I think this goes back to D2C 1.0, when there was just too much money given to brands that then hired too many people, and none of those businesses got profitable. None. All the way down to Allbirds 3 weeks ago got sold for whatever, $30 million. That shouldn't happen, right? That's irresponsible across the table, around the horn, all around. So like, let's not relive that again.
Yeah,
And
like everyone
so that's what I look for. That's what I look for.
It's like everyone was taking steroids, like as an athlete. It's like, that's good. You're just going to go back down to zero. Like, you stop taking this money that you should have never had. in the first place.
Yeah, and so like can this brand get profitable and when? And then sort of really hold to that. I think again, like I don't understand brands that can't ever get profitable. I don't like why would somebody give you money? I do get like, okay, AI, there's a whole different level, but if you're building a product, like you got to have a time frame. And if it can't make money, what's the point of doing it?
Mhm.
Really, like what is the point of doing it? To give some people some work for a couple of years or to take some money from a venture capital, like that doesn't seem like a good reason. So yeah, can it make money? That's a requirement.
Mhm. I'd say so. Ryan, we've kept you long enough. We're coming up on the hour here. One more rapid fire question for you that I wanted to ask at the top. What was the last Lego build? So you had a Lego there.
Oh, my son builds Legos every day. So the last one I built was a Christmas themed like Santa work truck with like that the doors opened and elves and a Christmas tree on the top. That's the last one I built, which is around Christmas time.
How long did it take?
It took like 90 minutes.
Okay, that's impressive.
Well, it's
I
got
would've-
directions. It's got directions. I didn't like it was like a kid. It's not like I like imagined this. It was like paint by numbers. Let me like be clear.
Not all that easy, okay?
Claude with CAD and like made your own design and
Yeah, no. But you know, some people can invent this stuff in their head. I just followed directions
Sure.
and opened bag 1, 2, and 3 to
We need a
create.
Lego Jolie shower head. I think
You
that's
know, that's not a bad idea. That's a great idea. I did make these little 18 karat gold like necklace charms. I have like 3 of them.
Love that. Love that. Can't wait to get
Yeah,
mine in the mail.
Yeah, when you're a 10-year customer, you get an 18 karat gold
Exactly.
jewelry.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. This was amazing. Thank you so much. And again, this was our 4th episode of Checked Out. We do this every last Friday of the month. And it's a basically open format and a recurring podcast here. So feel free to get yourself on the invite. Thanks, guys.
Thanks everybody.
Guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome. Thank you.